My name is Elena Brooks. I'm 33 years old. And for a long time I believed that the end of a relationship would arrive loudly. I thought it would come with raised voices, accusations thrown like weapons, doors slammed hard enough to rattle the walls. I believed heartbreak announced itself with drama. I was wrong. Sometimes it comes quietly. Sometimes it comes while the television is still on. The room still warm. The evening still ordinary. It happened on a Tuesday night in early spring. April, I think. We were sitting on his couch. The same one we'd spent countless evenings on. Watching a reality show he liked. I couldn't tell you what it was about now. Something noisy and exaggerated. Full of people crying over problems that weren't really problems at all. I remember noticing how loud it was. How it filled the room. And then I remember the silence. He reached for the remote and muted the television. The sudden quiet made me look over. He turned toward me slowly. Not angrily, not nervously. Calm. Too calm. His posture shifted the way it did when he was about to make a point in a work meeting. Elena, he said. That alone was enough to make my stomach tighten. We need to talk. 4 words. Nothing dramatic. Nothing cruel. But something inside me shifted. Like furniture being moved in a room I thought I knew by heart. We'd been together for 2 years. Long enough that our story felt settled. Long enough that people stopped asking how we met. Long enough that effort had softened into routine. I thought that was what stability looked like. I thought comfort meant safety. We met at a friend's wedding. One of those events where everything was slightly off. The chicken was dry. The champagne warm. The speeches too long. We'd ended up laughing in the corner, bonded by shared sarcasm and the relief of finding someone else who felt out of place. He was easy to talk to, confident without trying. The kind of man who moved through a room like he belonged in it. People gravitated toward him naturally. I was different. I was dependable. I showed up when I said I would. I remembered birthdays. I planned ahead. At the time, I thought our differences balanced each other. I thought that was love. On that couch, in that quiet, he folded his hands together like he was about to deliver feedback. I don't think this is working anymore, he said. The room didn't spin. The world didn't collapse. It was subtler than that. Like the floor tilting just enough that you notice, but not enough to fall. What do you mean? I asked. I kept my voice steady. I was proud of that, even then. He sighed. And it wasn't the kind of sigh that came from sadness. It was the sigh of someone who felt inconvenienced by emotion. You're a great person, he said quickly. Really? But you're predictable. The word landed heavier than I expected. Not predictable. You work your 9 to 5. You go to the gym on the same days every week. You wear the same kinds of clothes. You order the same food. You plan everything in advance. You're safe. I waited for him to stop. I waited for him to say something that would make it hurt less. Instead, he continued. Safe isn't exciting. I'm 34. I want more. I want someone extraordinary. The word echoed in my head. Extraordinary. I searched his face, looking for something I could recognize. So this is about someone else? I asked. No, he said too fast. No, it's not. This is about me not wanting to settle. And then he laughed. Not cruelly, not nervously, casually, like he was commenting on the weather. Instead of dismantling the future I thought we were building, I stood up. You're right, I said calmly. I'm not your type. Elena, don't be dramatic, he said. This isn't drama, I replied, reaching for my jacket. This is clarity. I walked out while he was still talking, still explaining, still justifying. The drive home was quiet. No tears, no screaming. Just a strange, hollow stillness that sat beside me like a passenger I hadn't invited. When I got to my apartment, I stood in front of the mirror and looked at myself. Not with criticism. Not with pity. Just honestly. Then I grabbed a notebook. I wrote down everything he said I wasn't. Exciting. Passionate. Risk-taking. Extraordinary. I didn't know it then, that list was about to change everything. The next morning didn't come with a transformation. There was no montage. No sudden confidence. No dramatic reinvention. I woke up tired, went to work, answered emails, sat through meetings. From the outside, nothing had changed. But something inside me had cracked open. I folded that list and tucked it into my wallet. Not as a reminder of him, but as evidence of how small I'd allowed myself to live. The first change was discipline. I'd always gone to the gym, but casually. Enough to maintain. Enough to stay comfortable. The same machines. The same routines. The same excuses. This time I hired a trainer. His name was Daniel, and he didn't care how tired I was. He didn't care if my form wasn't perfect. He cared that I showed up. 6 days a week. The first month was brutal. My muscles burned. My confidence lagged behind my effort. I wanted to quit more times than I wanted to admit. I didn't. By the third month, my body felt different. Not just stronger but capable. Like it could carry more weight than I'd ever asked of it before. The second change was how I presented myself. I donated half my closet. Not because the clothes were bad, but because they were. Chosen for invisibility. Neutral. Safe. Unremarkable. I worked with a stylist for the first time in my life. She asked me questions no one ever had. How do you want to feel when you walk into a room? Confident, I said. The woman who walked out of that fitting room still looked like me, but sharper. Intentional. Unapologetic. The third change scared me the most. I quit my job. Not impulsively. Not recklessly. I planned. I saved. I built a client list quietly on nights and weekends. I'd always wanted to start my own consulting practice. But stability had kept me frozen. 3 months after the breakup, I handed in my notice. The fear was immediate. So was the exhilaration. I said yes to things I'd always postponed. A spontaneous road trip. A language class. A climbing gym. Even though heights terrified me. I wasn't chasing chaos. I was chasing presence. By September, my life barely resembled the one I'd been afraid to lose. That's when I met Noah. It was at a networking event I almost skipped because I was tired. He wasn't flashy. He didn't dominate the room. He listened. We talked for nearly 2 hours about work, ambition, failure, the things people usually hide. When he handed me his card, he didn't push. I'd like to take you to dinner, he said. If you're interested. I was. Our first date wasn't dramatic. It was easy. And for the first time, easy didn't feel like settling. It felt like alignment. By October, we were together. And the strangest part was that I didn't feel like I was proving anything anymore. I felt like I'd arrived. Success didn't come with fireworks. It slipped in quietly. One day I looked around and realized my life no longer resembled the one I'd been afraid to lose. By November, my business was growing. I signed long-term clients. I hired help. I started looking at office space. Noah fit into that life effortlessly. He celebrated my wins. He asked questions. He reminded me to eat. One night while we were cooking dinner, he said, "You're brave, but you don't perform it," he added. "You just live it." The past tried to find me anyway. My ex asked about me through mutual friends. Then one afternoon, the doorman called. "There's a man here asking for you." When I opened the door, he looked tired. Smaller. "I was wrong," he said. "I'm happy. I replied. And I won't shrink myself again. When I closed the door, my hands weren't shaking. That's how I knew. Some chapters don't need dramatic endings. They just need to stay closed.